Hi, welcome to the first grade parent training for February 2017. My name is Melinda Marshall and I am the Early Intervention Specialist at Rock Prairie Elementary. And today we're going to talk about where your child should be in first grade at this point of the year, and some things that you can do to help them with decoding and with reading fluency. So, at this point of the year, in the middle of the year, as you can see, first at the beginning of the end of the second 9 weeks, beginning of the third 9 weeks, your child should be at about a reading level F to G. And then by the end of the year, we would like for them to be about an I to a J. And so I will cover what those levels look like. Level G and H is similar to this. This book is The Penguin Chick. This is a level G. As you can see, there are few short sentences on the page. They are not relying on pictures as much anymore as they were in the past. They really need to know those sight words to be able to figure out what it is. They need to be looking at what makes sense in the book. And we're going to be talking about some of these things later on. But this is where they should be about right now at the level G. And then this one right here, a busy beaver, is a level I. This is where they need to be at the end of the year. So as you can see, the difference between this G text, where the sentences are shorter, the pictures are bigger, to this level I text, where the sentences become paragraphs and they become a little bit longer. They don't rely as much on the pictures. Is quite a jump, and so we will be working in the classroom to get your child there, but we just wanted to let you know this is where this is what it looks like. So these are the first grade sight words, and these are just the 76 words that College Station thought your child would come across most often as they were reading the level texts for first grade. And so without a good basic knowledge and being able to look at these words and tell us what they are quickly, they probably will not be able to read up to a level I or J. So these are words that you can practice at home with many different things. We just want to make sure that they can look at these words, they know what they are, and they can read them in order to read their text. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is stretching out words to read and to spell. So when children are reading to you, have them say all the sounds in the word and put them together. And then when they get frustrated, there are other strategies that you can use that we're going to talk about, but ultimately, for the last thing, you tell them the word. When writing, invented spelling is okay. And so if they're thinking about the letters and sounds that are in words and they spell come, C-O-M, that is okay. In fact, we would rather see them doing that instead of parents telling them how to spell the words. And then children learn to write and spell in a developmental way. And so they learn to write initial sounds first, the sounds that they hear at the beginning of words. Then they write initial and final sounds, and then they'll begin to write middle sounds. So at this point of the year, your child should be able to do first, final, and middle sounds. And then they should be getting into more difficult word structures, such as blends and digraphs. And so those are the SH sounds, the two letters that make one sound, and then the blends like FL, BL, SL, things like that. And then by the end of the year, they should be in the long vowel pattern. So those are all the long vowels. And there are so many of them that the children are usually in this stage for a very long time, which is okay. And so it just teaches them the way that the English language works, and it gives them a developmental way to spell and to write. So if you see your child doing some of those things, it's quite normal. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is decoding for early readers. And the biggest thing that we hear as interventionists is, what can I do to make my child read a little bit better? And so I pulled some strategies with some really good prompts that I liked that you could use with your child as you're reading with them at home. So this one is called Be a Coach to Your Partner. you being the coach to your child. And so some of the things that you can say is, don't give them the word, give them a tip. Can you check the first letter? What makes sense? Think about what sounds right. You ultimately want to act like a teacher. What would I say? It looks like you're stuck. Let's see if we can help you. And so just like the picture says, you want to make sure that they're looking at the picture to see if there are any picture clues that can help them. Make sure that they're using what makes sense and check the first letter. Get your mouth ready and say that letter to figure out what it is. The next strategy for decoding is called try again. And this one really tells the students that that readers use more than one strategy to figure out unknown words. So as you can see, there's some prompts right here, but the picture really shows everything. And so it's hard to see, but the first one says, make sure you're reading from left to right. Look at all the sounds, say them, and put them together. Now put that word together. Does that make sense? Can the picture help you figure out the word? Again, does it make sense? Does it look right? Does it look like that word that I'm saying? Does it sound right in the sentence? And do I know any of the word parts? For example, I know SW says swa and ing says ing, so I'm going to put it together as swing. And then showing them that if one of these things doesn't work, let's try the next thing. If that doesn't work, let's try another one. A lot of children want to get stuck at, only looking at the picture or only wanting to stretch out words. And you can't stretch out every single word that you read. You just have to know the way words work. And so using these other strategies like, does it make sense? Does it look right? Does it sound right? Will really help them. And even chunking the word. The next two strategies, to me, are very important. The first one is think while you read the words. And the most important thing is rereading to think and understand, because the ultimate goal of reading really is to understand something. And so getting kids to realize that they can check themselves. Did you really understand what you just read? Tell me what you were thinking. Stop and check to make sure you get it. That's okay to do. Look at the pictures. Does it match with what you're reading? And then the last thing, which kind of wraps it all up into one picture, is to juggle all three words. And the most important thing is, again, does it sound right? Does it look right? And does it make sense? And so you just using those three questions right there can make a world of difference with making sure that number one, kids are understanding what they're reading, and number two, decoding words that they're not getting the first time. Another thing that you might see your child do as a first grader is tracking, which is, pointing to each word as they read. And that's quite developmental, as you can see in this next slide. And so as your first grader as a reader, your first grader is going to get into those longer texts and begin to work on fluency, which means reading like you're speaking. And so these are just 3 stages of fluency that your reader will go through, if it's in first grade or even going into second grade. And so you'll remember that when they were in kindergarten, they started with one-to-one correspondence. So they looked at each word and they pointed to each one as they were reading. The next stage they go through is called a sweeping stage. And so this picture shows the teacher using a paintbrush to show them that they can sweep under each word as they read to kind of connect them together to create that fluency. And then the last one are just eye scanner sticks. If you think about yourself as an adult reader, your eyes jump ahead to see what's coming up next. Your eyes are already 2 or 3 words ahead of the word that you're on. And so that is the ultimate goal, is to read how you speak. And so these 3 stages are what you will see your students or your children going through as they're developing as readers, especially going into second grade. So some ways to increase fluency. One thing, if you noticed, we call it robot reading, if they're reading one word at a time, one thing that you can do is have them go back and reread like they've always known that word. So if they get stuck on a word, Like the word vampire, for example, vampire, vampire. Okay, so now go back and read that sentence again. I saw a vampire on Halloween. Like you've always known the word, and then that way that will help to increase reading fluency. Another thing that you can show them if they're doing this is if it sounds really bumpy, they can go and make the bumpy smooth. So let's go back and try it again. Now that you know all the words, let's smooth it out. Do you think you should reread that in a smoother way? Asking them, how did that sound to you? Let's scoop a few words together and see if that helps. And then lastly, like I talked about earlier, let's say goodbye to robot reading. And so this is showing them that they can read in phrases. What words can you scoop together? Let's see. Now read all of those words in one breath. Try it again. Read all those words without pausing. And looking at the end of sentences, if you see a period, your voice is going to go down. If you see an exclamation mark, you're going to show strong feeling. And if you see a question mark, your voice is probably going to go up like you're asking a question. And then modeling reading fluency with your children too. If you're reading out loud to them, modeling how you are reading as you kind of like you are speaking and pointing that out to them. And it just takes time. First graders going into second grade, some of them have got it and some of them just need a little bit more help with that. But some of these strategies have prompts that you can use to help them at home. And lastly, the very last thing is ask questions. Comprehension really is the goal of reading. We read to understand something. And so asking questions when you're reading out loud to your child or when they're reading to you, how do you think the character felt? What do you think is going to happen next? Tell me, or retelling the story. What happened in the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened in the end? And so these things are really going to help them monitor their comprehension as readers. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to call Rock Prairie. Again, my name is Melinda Marshall, and my email is melindamarshall@csisd.org. Thank you so much.